hoş geldiniz. Buradaki kahvaltımızın amacı 8 Haziran'daki İngiltere seçimlerine var önümüzde biliyorsunuz. Bu seçimlerde Türk halkının İngiltere seçimlerinde aktif rol alması için bu kahvaltıyı düzenledik. Aynı zamanda Konservatif Parti milletvekili adaylarımız bizlerle beraber, Gonul ve Debois burada bizimle beraber sizlerin sorularını cevaplayacaklar. Neden kendilerini desteklememiz gerektiği hakkında kendileri bizi bilgilendirecek. Sizler de sormak istediğiniz soruları hiç çekinmeden kendilerine sorun. Sizlerden diğer bir ricam, Türk toplumu olarak İngiltere siyasetinde daha aktif rol olmamız, partilere üye olmamız ve bu vesileyle sesimizi daha fazla duyurmamız gerekiyor. Bu seçimler için geç kalmış olabiliriz fakat önümüzdeki seçimler için 2021 ya da 2022 yılında yapılacak seçimler için şimdiden partilere üye olmamız ve aktif siyasete katılmamız gerekiyor. Özellikle gençlerimizin bu çalışmalarda daha aktif rol almasını istiyorum. Sözü ben fazla uzatmıyorum, konuklarımıza veriyorum.
Thank you for inviting Nick and I here today. Nick was the MP in Enfield North until 2015. Let me just say Happy Mother's Day. I'm a little bit kutlu because in Turkey and Cyprus it's also Mother's Day. This is the second breakfast I'm having. I had my first breakfast with my children. So again, thank you for inviting us to speak here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Gonul and I'm Türk kökenli. I'm of Turkish descent. I'm a working mother with 2 young children. I've got a career in technology and a passion for education. I'm actively involved in my local community as I want to help those who haven't got a voice. And I want to improve our community. So I believe MPs, communities need an MP who represents them. And I, like many people, work hard and want the best for my family. I stood in the 2015 general election in Edmonton, and I'm standing again in the general election on the 8th of June in Edmonton. So it's been an eventful 12 months in politics. We had the referendum and the vote to leave the EU, followed by a new Prime Minister, Theresa May. So in her time in office, Theresa May has done a fantastic job of bringing the party together and showing strong and stable leadership required to bring the country through the Brexit negotiations and beyond. So the opposition party have got Jeremy Corbyn, a leader who's detached from the majority of his MPs and who doesn't have their confidence. He has a deputy who seems to be working against him. Someone close to him leaked the party's manifesto. Jeremy Corbyn's only route to power would be through a coalition with the Lib Dems and the SNP. So you may have heard the phrase, a coalition of chaos, and that's what it will be. I was present, as were some of you, when we welcomed the Turkish Prime Minister to London. He spoke about the need for those of Turkish descent living and working in foreign countries to integrate into society and to back those looking to move into public office. So I'm a prime example of this. I'm of Turkish descent and I'm trying to become an MP. The Turkish Prime Minister also spoke about the EU and how Turkey were trying to join the EU. He used a lovely phrase, which I'm going to paraphrase, about how those who were in the EU were pishman and those who weren't in the EU were pishman, or had regrets. So I think there's a real opportunity for Turkey and the UK to forge an even closer relationship over the coming years, with both being outside of the EU. So if elected, Nick and I would be MPs who understand Turkey and the Turkish community, and this can only help. So we heard only last week that Rolls-Royce has partnered with the Turkish group Calais with the aim of building engines for new UK-built fighter jets. So on defence, the Conservative government is committed to NATO and will meet the NATO commitment to spend at least 2% of GDP on defence. A Conservative government will be there to support Turkey. Theresa May's strong support for our national security is in stark contrast to Jeremy Corbyn's policies. Jeremy Corbyn has wavered over the UK's commitment to NATO, to nuclear deterrence and RAF strikes to Daesh. Jeremy Corbyn has said before that he might not come to the aid of a NATO country if it were attacked. And with Turkey's position at the edge of Europe, Turkey needs to be sure that it has the support of its NATO partners. As I mentioned before, I've got a passion for education. I believe that every child has the right to the best possible start in life, and I've been trying to make that an educational reality for as many children as I can. So I'm Vice Chair of Ashmole Academy Trust. I'm Chair of Governors for 2 schools, a secondary school and a primary school. Ashmole Academy is rated by Ofsted as an outstanding secondary school, and Ashmole Primary School is on course for being outstanding too. So due to my campaigning for more outstanding school places in the borough, Ashmole embraced the Conservative Free School Initiative, and in September 2016 we opened Ashmole Primary School to 60 students. So we at Ashmole believe that excellence is a habit, and we're very keen to expand our educational excellence into new areas. So I'm working on an educational initiative with Turkey and have been talking with Balıkesir University to establish a summer school. This summer school will teach English to Turkish-speaking professionals. We've had initial talks and I look forward to progressing it. A meeting is planned with the Minister from Turkey to turn this concept into a reality. So to conclude, I'm passionate about education and I'm passionate about the community. I have a track record. I have had a success in my community campaign and set up a new school for children. I've volunteered for the benefit of others for 14 years without payment. So I hope that those of you who can will vote for me on June the 8th and for a country that works for everyone. Thank you.
Right, good morning. I don't need a microphone, I have a loud voice. Can you hear me over there? Now, happy Mother's Day. I think that's wonderful. Happy Mother's Day to you. Why, however, on Mother's Day, have they brought you to listen to 2 politicians? I don't think that's fair for the mothers. Thank you for being here. Look, my name is Nick Debois. I was the Member of Parliament for Enfield North between 2010 and 2015. We now face a general election in less than 3 weeks. But you know, this election is not actually about Nick Debois. It is not even about the wonderful Gonul Daniels. This election truly is about who is going to lead our great country into what is going to be the most challenging and important years ahead of this country. Is it going to be the strong and stable government of Theresa May, or is it going to be that chaos that Gonul referred to of Jeremy Corbyn? And it really is an important time for us, because we have redeveloped the economy since the awful Labour crash of 2009, when everything became so much harder for every family, for every business. As we've rebuilt the economy, rebuilt jobs, rebuilt the opportunities here, we have to secure that economy, and so that we can continue to fund our public services, pay off the huge debts that this country has. But to do that, we have to negotiate the best possible deal from Brexit with the European Union. That is the single most important factor that can influence the economy in the future. And I believe there is only one person who can stand up for Britain, stand up for our interests, and secure the strong government and negotiations we need, and that has to be Theresa May. It is most definitely not Jeremy Corbyn, who will be held hostage by a coalition of partners. That is the choice. So please remember, every vote for a Labour MP is actually a vote for Jeremy Corbyn, and a vote for a Conservative candidate is a vote for Theresa May. But whilst you think about that, and I hope you will reflect positively on that message, I obviously want to talk a little bit about this amazing Turkish community that I worked with both before I became an MP and even not just during my time as an MP, but since then as well. Let me be clear. I am a huge fan, not just of the British-Turkish residents here and obviously in Enfield North, as well as Edmonton and elsewhere, but also of the importance of a strategic relationship and a trade and defence and security relationship with Turkey. Why is that? That is because I believe that in Turkey there is a need for us to recognise the huge security challenges that you face that are in our interests and the interests of many other countries to help you deal with those security challenges that are, of course, threatening the stability, as we all know, to our cost with what is going on in the whole Middle Eastern region. But it is also, I believe, a huge opportunity for Britain to develop a trade relationship with a country that is going to emerge as one of the strongest economies over the next 10 to 15 years, highlighted as actually potentially the fastest growing economy. Now, let me also be clear that despite my enthusiasm for Turkey and building a strategic relationship, I am also quite prepared to be a critical friend, because I do believe that whilst in the long term we have to secure an important close relationship, there are matters in Turkey of both human rights and, of course, of respecting the freedom of speech that I believe, as a critical friend, we should always make the case to Turkey that, in our opinion, it would be better to move towards a more democratic and liberal approach. But we should also recognise that Turkey is a young democracy. It is actually founded, as we know, by the great founder Ataturk over a period of 90 years. That is young in terms of a democracy. And being young in terms of democracy that has such a huge strategic importance to our country, it is nevertheless, I believe, our role both to support and yet be a critical friend as and when we need to be. And that is something I believe the government of the day and the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson are doing and take seriously. But not grandstanding. Not grandstanding as when the coup took place. I felt the EU were absurdly slow in supporting the Turkish government against what was, quite frankly, an unacceptable coup in Turkey. Britain, I am pleased to say, was quick to recognise that it is not acceptable to have an attempted overthrow of a government, and the Select Committee report has also made it clear that actually Britain took a balanced and generally supportive view, whilst of course highlighting those areas that we felt Turkey's government fell substantially short on. But why am I talking to you today? I've said we want a future with Turkey, a close working relationship with Turkey in the future. You are the links to this great country as the British-Turkish diaspora, the people of the future who will grow up, the youngsters who will grow up here in this country, who will then become the business professionals, the cultural professionals, and I hope engage politically, so that we have a unique bridge with Turkey that we can exploit to the benefit of both Britain and Turkey. The future is sitting here in this room. All right, not for everyone. Some of us are over 50, and the future is a little smaller than it is for some of you who are a lot younger. But you are the future. And that is why I want to see the aims that you have set out to me today of closer integration amongst the British-Turkish community and closer involvement in the political processes here in Britain, I believe are crucial. And if over the next 5 years I can help engage more and more people in active politics so that they can both play a part supporting, I hope, the Conservative Party, but actually above all else, ensuring that they play an active part seeking representation in British parliaments, in British councils and legislators across the land, that is something that I believe I can help you do over the life of the next parliament should I be elected. But that is the call to action. If there is anything in what I have said that you believe is of value and worth supporting, I hope then, on the 8th of June, you will urge all your friends, both in Edmonton and in my constituency of Enfield North, in case you're in any doubt, Enfield North, that is what I need you to do to encourage people to vote for myself and for Gonul in Edmonton. Because if we do not win, then everything I have said is of far less value. And it would be a mission of mine to help proudly look back over 5 years' time and look back over and see more councillors, perhaps MP candidates ready and willing to take the challenge of facing the electorate in a general election. And can you make a difference? Yes, you can make a difference on the big stage, but also on the local stage. And I leave you with this thought, that in the last few weeks of the last Parliament in 2015, I found out that the Turkish GCSE and the GCE O-levels were under threat. The modern languages were going to be kicked off the curriculum. Now, I thought that this was a huge mistake, because I wanted everyone to actually learn Turkish so we could develop the businesswomen and men of the future. But I also knew it was important to the Turkish-speaking community. And I unashamedly tell you this, that I led that campaign. I secured a debate in the House of Commons, and I got guarantees from ministers we would protect those languages remain here. And whilst you might hear other politicians trying to take the credit, take a look at Hansard, because it was with the support of the Turkish-speaking community and the academics that we did it, and we saved them, and I am grateful for your participation, but more importantly, think of it as through politics you can take positive action. That to me is something I hope you as a community will engage in and do. Thank you very much, and happy Mother's Day again.
In order to do this one, I would like to ask all of you to please register to vote before the 22nd May, and then it's either by the postal or to go to the polling station, vote, and then we are happy to announce it. As our Union of the European Turkish Democrats, civil charity organization, we cannot really directly support one parties. But however, in North London, both in Edmonton and North Enfield, we are happy to confirm, and it's like supporting our candidates, Nixta and the Gunnels. And then thank you very much again to all of you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to ask you some questions actually. One of them for Gonul Daniels and another one for Debois. Gonul Daniels mentioned that you are very passionate about education. And I think currently what the youngsters are suffering about nowadays is this high tuition fees at universities. And this is becoming, I think, a big issue. And I was just wondering what you are planning to do in the future in order to eliminate this issue in the youth community. And that's my question for you. And for Debois, Debois mentioned that the UK is prepared and happy to do cooperation for the security of the region in Turkey because of the chaotic environment. What sort of practical actions are you planning to take in order to achieve this? What are you planning to do in order to implement this?
Ladies first.
As I said before, I am passionate about education. I do think it is the most important thing in the world because it gives you social mobility to be able to do anything, to achieve anything. If you don't get a good education, you can't move on. I agree that tuition fees shouldn't be expensive, it should be affordable so that people can go to university. There are grants at the moment. I don't think they're very widely advertised, but they can be found that there are grants to go to university. If I was elected, then I would be in a position to actually work with the government on policies such as these, which are close to my heart, to try and make changes on them. Because I don't agree with absolutely everything the Conservative Party does, but their values are my values. So if I got elected, then it would give me the position to be able to do something about it.
Okay, now, can I just comment on that? Because I know that other parties will bribe you with taxpayers' cash that will make you think you are actually in a heaven utopia where everything is paid for you. Well, look, the reality is with the student loans that they have been structured so that the repayments, should you choose to go to university, are, in my opinion, very low, hugely competitive, and you don't even start paying them back until you start earning something like £23,000. I may have the figure slightly wrong. And that is your investment that you are making in your future. And there are other choices. Many people go on to apprenticeships and so forth. But the reality is, in education, be it at university or at our schools, that we can only continue to support them at the level we do if we keep the economy going in the right direction. And that is the brutal reality, because when you all go out to work, people who have been paid to service this breakfast today, they are paying the taxes that fund our vital public services. And if we cannot keep them in work, if we cannot keep the economy ticking along, then all the promises in the world will mean nothing. And unfortunately, Labour's proposals are clearly to add 50 billion of debt, of which only 15 billion, as far as we know until we see this manifesto, are funded. That is a recipe for economic disaster that will mean we will lose even more in taxation and loss of jobs. So whilst they'll be unlikely to see a reversal of those fees under a Conservative government, what we will do is create more opportunities through a stronger economy to ensure that those that do it benefit from it. Turning to security, I think the huge importance is the continuing, and by the way, when I talk about security, I think it's also not just linked to sharing of military intelligence, which has been stepped up since Theresa May's visit. It is also understanding the huge humanitarian and, by implication, security issues. I mean, Turkey has the largest worldwide refugee camp in the world. What they are doing in Turkey, is often overlooked. And so our international aid efforts that do not have universal welcome by many Conservative voters for a number of reasons are actually making a huge contribution to ensuring the security by helping ease that situation there. And the sharing of intelligence data is absolutely crucial, and showing a united response to terrorism, be it domestic or international. And you won't find the British government wavering on that one.
My name is Yusuf. I live in Enfield North.
Hey!
Now
the bad news?
No, I will be happy to take your message to my friends and my neighbours, but obviously they will ask me, well, what exactly is Nick going to do in the Enfield North area? So would you just take 2 minutes to explain what it is that you'll be doing locally, so that I can message this to my neighbours and my colleagues who live in the Ordnance Road area?
Yusuf, thank you for that question. I couldn't have asked for a better question, so thank you for that. And by the way, there's a by-election in Enfield Lock on Thursday, where I'm hoping to see a huge swing to the Conservatives to give me some hope for June the 8th, because it will be very, very close in Enfield North. London is different to the rest of the country. But to answer your question, first of all, we only learnt last night of more stabbings by knife crime in Hertford Road. There is a report that one of the people involved was as young as 12 years old. Now, I don't know if that's accurate, but if it is true, it would not be the first time. And the fact that young people are still carrying knives and feel that they can carry knives without the risk of either being stabbed or prosecuted is most worrying. And when I was your MP, between 2010 and 2015, I introduced what sadly became known as Enfield's Law. Because in North London, we had seen at the time more stabbings of our young children by young people than ever before. And Enfield's Law was introduced by me because we found that people who were caught carrying knives were actually being prosecuted, in some cases up to 10 times in front of a court, and being sent home with a slap on the wrist. This was not a deterrent. Enfield's Law introduced mandatory jail sentences for those convicted of carrying a knife twice. Now, that law is still not being enforced, so the first thing I'm going to do is make sure Enfield's Law is fully enforced. The second thing I'm going to do is, since leaving Parliament, I have worked with a charity, Kids Count, which has been all about early intervention and education to stop our young children thinking it is okay to carry a knife. Because you know what? If you carry a knife, you are more likely to be killed or stabbed by a knife. That is a fact. So the work I need to see the government and local councils do, and more importantly, the huge voluntary groups that are doing such a good job, they need our support to roll out this programme and stop this hideous scourge of knife crime. That is a huge local issue for us. Number two, whilst unemployment is down by 40% in Enfield North, it is still higher than elsewhere. And I introduced annual jobs fairs. I was the first Member of Parliament to introduce jobs fairs, bringing employers together to hire local people. And I also concentrated on those over 50 who were finding it really hard at the end of that Parliament. They have not happened under a Labour MP for 2 years. They have not been done. I will reintroduce those immediately to do it. Community safety, jobs fairs, and then of course, as we will see, I hope in the Conservative manifesto, my second thing is to introduce and put in place the plans that will allow us to have much more affordable housing. You live on the Ordnance Road. You know what it's like there. You know that we are suffering from a housing shortage in Enfield North, particularly in parts of the east. We have huge brownfield sites where there is no development going on. My job is to be the strong voice for you, the representatives, to make sure the councils speed up their plans, take advantage of the government money on offer, and start building houses so that we can ease the housing problem in Enfield North. And if you travel into London on the trains, you will know that it is hugely challenging at the busiest times. Well, when I left Parliament, we'd secured new carriages, the metro-style carriages that you could walk all the way through like the Underground. They are due in 2018 on most of our lines. But we must not crash the economy. To secure that, to make sure it happens, we have to return Theresa May as Prime Minister, because she carries the strong and stable plan to keep our economy in shape, so we can guarantee that that investment will not be cancelled if we get the chaos of a Corbyn coalition. 3 plans.
Bir dakika.
Arabaya dikkat edin. Gene bir tane alacağım.
Arkadaşlar son bir tane daha alalım. Evet, gölge çıktı. Daha.
Biraz geri çıksana. Son. Last one. Thank you.